At 79 years old, Barry Gibb finally opened up about the truth of his friendship with Cliff Richard. Barry Gibb's full name is Barry Allen Crompton Gibb, and he was born on September 1, 1946, in Douglas, on the Isle of Man. He was the second of 5 kids in a family that really loved music. His mom and dad, Hugh and Barbara Gibb, made their home a place where creativity and music were always in the air, and that helped Barry fall in love with making songs from a very young age. Even as a little kid, Barry had this amazing gift for writing songs that felt real and emotional but were also put together really well, a talent that would stay with him for more than 60 years. When the Gibb family moved first to Manchester, England, and then all the way to Redcliffe, Queensland, in Australia, Barry's dream of making music just kept getting bigger. He found his voice alongside his younger twin brothers, Maurice and Robin, and together, they were something special. The creation of the Bee Gees felt like it was just meant to happen. Back in the late 1950s, Barry, Robin, and Maurice started singing together and developed their own cool sound, those tight, beautiful harmonies that would one day blow the whole world away. They started out playing small shows in Australia, but their big break came in the mid-1960s when a well-known DJ named Bill Gates and a producer named Robert Stigwood noticed them and brought them back to England. After that, things moved really fast. The Bee Gees became famous for hit songs that crossed all kinds of music styles. They went from soft, heartfelt love songs in the 1960s like To Love Somebody and Massachusetts to huge disco anthems in the 1970s like Stayin' Alive, Night Fever, and How Deep Is Your Love? Barry, being the oldest brother and the creative leader of the group, played a huge role in shaping what the Bee Gees sounded like. His high-pitched singing voice, called a falsetto, became iconic, his songwriting became timeless, and the way he produced music was totally revolutionary. The 1970s were Barry Gibb's golden years, when he helped kick off the disco revolution that changed music all around the world. The Bee Gees' work on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack turned into one of the best-selling albums ever made, won them Grammy Awards, and made them legends in the world of music and pop culture. But Barry's talents didn't stop with the Bee Gees. He also wrote and produced hit songs for a whole bunch of other famous artists, including Barbra Streisand with Guilty, Diana Ross with Chain Reaction, and Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton with Islands in the Stream. His ability to keep up with changing music trends while still making songs that felt deep and meaningful made him one of the most versatile people in the history of music. But Barry's life wasn't all success and celebration. He went through some really painful losses too. His brothers Andy died in 1988, Maurice in 2003, and Robin in 2012, and losing each one of them left a huge hole in Barry's heart. Every loss wasn't just losing a family member, it was also losing a piece of the creative magic that had defined his whole life. Even through all that pain, Barry kept going. He kept making music to honor their memory and show that their legacy would live on. His later solo work, like his 2016 album, In the Now, showed a more personal and reflective side of him, the thoughts and feelings of a man who had seen incredible success but also deep, deep loss. Barry has talked openly about feeling like his brothers are still with him when he performs, as if the bond they shared was so strong that even death couldn't break it, forever connected through music. Barry Gibb's place in music history is impossible to fully measure. He is one of the very few artists in the world to have written or co-written 16 #1 hits in the United States, and his influence touches musicians across every generation and style. He has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and in 2018, Queen Elizabeth II gave him a knighthood for his incredible contributions to music and charity, an honor that showed not just how talented he is, but how kind-hearted he is too. His one-of-a-kind voice, his heartfelt lyrics, and his powerful performances continue to inspire musicians and songwriters all over the world. Barry Gibb's love life has been just as full and meaningful as his career. It started with his first marriage to Maureen Bates, and later he found his forever person in Linda Gray, who has been his devoted wife for more than 50 years. Each relationship was an important chapter in his personal story, showing the challenges that come with fame, the strength of real love, and the stability that helped him thrive as both a man and an artist. Barry Gibb married Maureen Bates in 1966, when he was still a young guy just on the edge of becoming a world-famous star. The Bee Gees were just getting started, and Barry was trying to balance a rising music career with being a husband. Maureen, by most accounts, gave him emotional support and comfort during those uncertain early days when the Gibb brothers were still working hard to make a name for themselves. The two shared a quiet, private life away from the spotlight. But as fame started to take over Barry's world, the demands of his skyrocketing career put a lot of pressure on their relationship. Constant touring, recording, and being in the public made it really hard for the young couple to keep things normal. After 4 years together, their marriage ended in divorce in 1970. Even though it didn't last, that marriage was an important time in Barry's life, a period of figuring himself out and feeling the growing pains that come with becoming an adult while the whole world is watching. His time with Maureen, though short, taught him important lessons about love, loyalty, and the real costs of chasing success. That same year, something amazing happened when Barry met Linda Gray, the woman who would become not just his wife, but his anchor through decades of both joy and heartbreak. Linda, who had once been named Miss Edinburgh and was a Scottish beauty queen, had a quiet kind of strength and elegance that completely captured Barry's heart. They met during the Bee Gees' rapid rise in the early 1970s, a time when the brothers were transforming from promising young artists into full-blown international superstars. Barry was immediately drawn to Linda's grace and down-to-earth personality, which felt like a breath of fresh air compared to the craziness of showbiz. Their love story moved quickly, and on September 1, 1970, which also happened to be Barry's birthday, they got married, starting what would become one of the most lasting and admired marriages in all of show business. Throughout their life together, Linda Gray became the solid foundation that Barry built everything else on top of. She wasn't just his romantic partner, she was his emotional safe place, helping him get through the pressures of fame, the complicated world of family dynamics, and the non-stop creative demands of keeping the Bee Gees' incredible legacy alive. Together, they built a family full of love, raising 5 children: Stephen, Ashley, Travis, Michael, and Alexandra. Their home life, though touched at times by the struggles of fame and loss, was grounded in love, respect, and a deep spiritual connection. Linda was there for Barry through every big moment. From the dazzling highs of the disco era to the heartbreaking losses of his brothers Maurice and Robin, she never left his side, standing strong through his exhaustion, grief, and the heavy emotional weight of being the last surviving brother. In interviews, Barry has spoken openly about how Linda literally saved him, emotionally and spiritually. He has said that her love kept him grounded and gave him the strength to keep going even when it felt like his whole world was falling apart. "Linda is my rock," he once said, making it clear that her loyalty and devotion kept him from getting lost in the darker side of fame. While so many celebrity marriages have fallen apart under the pressure of public life, Barry and Linda's has lasted, a true example of real partnership in an industry that's famous for short-lived relationships. Their love story, which started more than 50 years ago, is still going strong as they enjoy their later years together, often spending time at their home in Miami surrounded by family and the beautiful memories they've built. After decades of friendship, admiration, and occasional distance, Barry Gibb finally opened up about how he really feels about British pop legend Cliff Richard. Now 79 years old, the last surviving BG looked back with total honesty and emotion on a relationship that has stretched across more than half a century in the wild, ever-changing world of music. For a long time, fans have wondered about the nature of their friendship, two of the most influential voices in pop history, whose careers often crossed paths but whose personalities seem to belong to totally different musical worlds. Barry, who has never been someone to speak without thinking it through, chose this moment in his life to finally share the real truth about what Cliff Richard meant to him and how their paths shaped each other. "Cliff was one of the first artists who made me believe that you could be decent and famous at the same time," Barry said, thinking back on their early meetings during the swinging 60s. At a time when so many artists were getting swallowed up by the chaos of fame, Cliff's calm, humble, and deeply moral way of carrying himself really stood out. He never lost his faith, even when the business tried to break him. I respected that. For Barry, who had seen up close just how dangerous and tempting fame could be, Cliff's steadiness was something truly rare, like a quiet kind of rebellion against the ugly side of show business. Barry also talked about how Cliff's success helped inspire him and his brothers to dream even bigger. "When we were still trying to find our sound, Cliff had already conquered the charts. He showed us that you didn't have to be American to make it big. You could be from England or from anywhere, and the world would still listen." Those words carry a lot of weight, because of course, the Bee Gees themselves would go on to become global icons, helping define not just pop and disco music, but an entire cultural era. In Barry's eyes, Cliff Richard's early success helped break down the walls that once kept British musicians from reaching the international stage. But Barry's big reveal wasn't just about praise and admiration. He also talked honestly about the quiet distance that had grown between them over the years, something that confused a lot of people who followed both artists. "We weren't the kind of friends who called each other every day, but whenever we met, there was always respect. Sometimes life just takes you in different directions. He explained how the Bee Gees' massive rise to fame in the 1970s, with smash hits like Stayin' Alive and How Deep Is Your Love, put him in a whirlwind of touring, recording, and media attention that made it hard to keep up personal relationships. When you're on top of the world, you think you have time for everyone, but fame moves faster than friendship. Still, Gibb made it crystal clear that his admiration for Cliff Richard never went away. What I've always admired most about Cliff is that he stayed true to himself. He didn't follow trends. He made his own. Even when the world mocked him for being clean-cut or religious, he stood tall. That takes courage. Barry's words carried the weight of a man who understood firsthand just how much it costs to stay real in an industry built on image and reinvention. He hinted that Cliff's ability to balance fame with faith was something he actually envied, calling him a man who never let the stage change the soul. In one of the most touching moments of his reflection, Barry talked about the deep bond that comes from simply surviving a lifetime in the music business. We've both seen friends go too soon. Maurice, Robin, Andy, all my brothers. They were my life. And Cliff has lost people, too. When you've been in this business as long as we have, you realize that just surviving it is a miracle. His voice filled with quiet sadness as he added, Cliff's still here, still singing, still smiling. That's strength. That's faith in motion. Gibb's words also revealed a deeper sense of connection, one built on lasting through it all and leaving behind a real legacy. We're both from an era where music came from the heart, not the machine. What I love about Cliff is that he still believes in melody, in lyrics that mean something. That's rare today. He described how the two would occasionally send each other notes of encouragement over the years, and how seeing Cliff continue to tour gave him the push he needed to keep performing, even after losing his brothers. In the end, Barry's truth about Cliff Richard wasn't about some big dramatic confession or shocking revelation. It was about gratitude, a heartfelt, genuine tribute from one legend to another, built out of decades of quiet, unspoken respect. People always want drama, but the truth is simpler. Cliff's a good man. One of the best. He never gave up and he never gave in. That's what I'll always admire about him. At 79 years old, Barry Gibb speaks not as a superstar trying to grab headlines, but as a survivor, giving a heartfelt shout-out to a fellow artist who truly understands what it means to go through the highest highs and lowest lows of fame. His words remind us that behind the bright lights and screaming crowds, there's a quiet brotherhood of artists who made it through, who kept growing, and who never stopped being true to who they were. For Barry Gibb, speaking his truth about Cliff Richard wasn't about dropping a bombshell. It was an act of love, of deep respect, and of timeless appreciation for a man who, just like him, never stopped believing in the power of music.